The emergency klaxons weren't supposed to sound like that. 3 sharp bursts, followed by a continuous wail, meant one thing on Research Station Kylar 7. Imminent sentient death. Xenobiologist Kale Thas sprinted into the security center, his 4-fingered hands already reaching for the tactical display before he'd fully processed what he was seeing on the feeds. "Commander, we have a Category 5 wildlife incident," Security Officer R. Hill announced, his voice tight with the kind of professional calm that barely masked pure panic. The human photographer wandered outside the protective perimeter. "She's currently 70 meters from the eastern habitat zone, and dear ancestors," Commander Vexthul breathed, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. "Is that what I think it is?" Kale Thas felt his entire circulatory system constrict. On the central monitor, human wildlife photographer Emma Johnson stood motionless in a small clearing, facing down a Kylar apex predator cub. The creature, easily 200 kilograms of corded muscle, razor-sharp combat claws, and instinctive killing prowess, had dropped into a full threat display. Its shoulder spines fully extended, auditory ridges flattened against its skull. "Pull up the species file," Vexthul commanded. "Immediate threat assessment." The station AI's voice filled the room with clinical precision that somehow made everything worse. Kylar apex predator. Juvenile specimen, estimated age 4 standard cycles. Species responsible for 847 documented sentient deaths across 12 galactic years. Threat display posture indicates imminent attack. Average time from threat display to lethal engagement, 3.2 seconds. Survival rate of non-pack encounters with juveniles, 0%. Juveniles considered more dangerous than adults due to unpredictable aggression patterns and incomplete pack bonding instincts. "Get a tranquilizer team out there now," Kyle Thas ordered, his training overriding his terror. "Heavy load darts, maximum dosage." "Sir, tranquilizer impact to unconsciousness time is 7.8 seconds. R. Hill interrupted. "The cub can kill in 3. On screen, the cub lowered its head, combat claws extending fully, and released a growl that the security feeds picked up even through the reinforced station walls. A sound that bypassed higher brain functions and spoke directly to prey species panic centers. Emma Johnson growled back. "What is she doing?" Vexthul's voice climbed an octave. "Is the human having a psychological breakdown?" But Emma wasn't breaking down. She was matching the cub's posture, lowering her own head, widening her stance, and producing another growl from her throat. Deeper this time, more sustained. The sound shouldn't have been possible from a human vocal structure, yet there it was, reverberating through the audio pickups. The cub's ear ridges twitched, just barely, almost imperceptibly. "Kyle Thas, your xenobiology assessment, is this a known defensive behavior for humans?" Commander Vexthul demanded. Kyle Thas was scrolling frantically through his datapad, pulling up every file on human behavioral patterns under extreme threat conditions. No recorded instances of aggressive mimicry. Humans typically employ flight response or, in rare cases, tool-based defensive measures. They don't do this. The cub took a step forward. Emma took a step forward. The cub's growl intensified. Emma's growl intensified, and then she did something that made every alarm in Kale Thas's mind start screaming. She bared her teeth and added a sharp, barking vocalization. The cub sat down. "Did that just—" Rahil started. "Replay that sequence," Vexthul commanded. "Slow motion, full analysis." They watched it again. The moment Emma barked, the cub's entire body language shifted. Shoulder spines partially retracting, weight settling backward, and then, impossibly, its hindquarters lowering until it was sitting in the moss it's behaving like a domesticated companion animal, Kael'thas whispered. From Earth, the ones humans call dogs. That's not a dog, Vex-Thul said flatly. That's an apex predator cub that has killed 4 trained security specialists in documented encounters on this planet alone. On screen, Emma's posture relaxed fractionally. She was still in a ready stance, but her shoulders had dropped, and her facial expression had shifted from aggressive display to something Kael'thas's human interaction training files labeled as cautiously amused. Station AI, recalculate survival probability, Arhill requested. Current probability of human survival has increased from 0.3% to error. Recalculating. Error. Available data does not support observed behavioral patterns. Unable to generate probability assessment. The AI just gave up, Arhill said, his voice strangled. I've never seen the AI give up before. Emma was moving again. Slowly, carefully, she extended one hand toward the cub, fingers loosely curled, palm facing down, moving with the kind of deliberate patience that somehow suggested she'd done this exact thing 1,000 times before. She's going to touch it, Kael'thas heard himself say. She's actually going to touch it. Override, Vex-Thul barked into his communicator. All units, prepare for lethal engagement on my mark. Target the predator. Extreme caution for human proximity. Emma's hand made contact with the cub's head just behind its auditory ridge. She began scratching. The cub made a sound. A new sound. A sound that no xenobiologist in the entire galactic research community had ever recorded a Kylar apex predator making. A deep, rumbling rhythmic vibration that the audio sensors identified as contentment purring. That's not possible, Kael'thas said. That species doesn't have the physiological structures for contentment vocalization. They're obligate pack hunters with purely aggressive communication patterns. Tell that to the predator cub that's currently purring like a Centauri pleasure cat, Rahil muttered. On screen, Emma was smiling now, a genuine expression of warmth that her species files indicated as affectionate amusement, and saying something too quiet for the pickups to capture clearly. The cub's eyes were half closed, its entire body relaxing under her continued scratching. Get me the senior xenobiologist from Capital City, Vex-Thul ordered. Emergency priority, and get me Fleet Admiral Durax. I need to explain why I just activated a planetary emergency beacon for what is apparently a petting session. Kael'thas couldn't stop staring at the monitor. Emma had shifted position, sitting down cross-legged on the moss, and the cub, the galaxy's most dangerous juvenile predator, had climbed partially into her lap, continuing to produce that impossible purring sound while she scratched behind its auditory ridges and under its chin. This is going to invalidate 40 years of research, Kael'thas said quietly. Everything we know about this species. Everything we've published about predator behavior patterns and aggression instincts. All of it is wrong. Sir, senior researcher Zilax is on the priority channel, Arhill announced. He's asking why we're interrupting his galactic conference presentation for, his words, probably another false alarm. Put him through, Vex-Thul said grimly, and route the security feed to his display. A holographic projection flickered to life. Zilax, ancient by any species standards, his sensory appendages twitching with irritation until he saw the security feed. Then they went completely still. Commander Vex-Thul, Zilax said slowly, please tell me that's an edited recording, some kind of training simulation. Live feed, senior researcher, Happening right now, 70 meters from the station. That human is committing suicide, Zilak stated. That cub will turn on her the moment its mother arrives, or the moment it finishes assessing her as prey, or the moment its hunting instincts override its confusion. I've studied this species for 3 decades. What I'm seeing is impossible. As if summoned by his words, a deep, resonant call echoed through the forest, the unmistakable territorial announcement of an adult Kylar apex predator. The mother, Kael'thas breathed. She's searching for the cub. Evacuate the human immediately, Zilax commanded. An adult protective mother is 3 times more dangerous than a juvenile. The human has seconds before. Emma looked up, tilted her head as if listening to distant music, and then did something that made Kael'thas's blood crystallize in his veins. She cupped her hands around her mouth and produced a high-pitched, warbling call that perfectly mimicked a Kylar apex predator juvenile distress cry. The cub in her lap responded immediately with its own call, not distressed, but communicative. A back-and-forth vocalization that sounded distinctly like a lost child calling to a searching parent. She's facilitating a reunion, Kael'thas whispered. She's helping the cub signal its location to its mother. She's bringing an adult apex predator directly to her position, Vexthul corrected. All units converge on... Wait, Zilax interrupted, his voice sharp. Look at the cub's behavior. Look at it. The cub had stood up in Emma's lap, still making those communicative calls, but its body language showed no distress, no fear. If anything, it seemed excited, hopeful. Through the tree line, the mother emerged, 4 meters of perfectly evolved killing machine, eyes immediately locking onto the scene of her offspring in a stranger's embrace. Every sensor in the security center screamed warnings about attack indicators. Emma stayed seated. She kept one hand on the cub's back, not restraining, just present. With her other hand, she made a slow, deliberate gesture. Palm out, fingers relaxed, no sudden movements. The mother approached. 5 meters. 3 meters. Close enough that her breath fogged the visual sensors. And then she lowered her head and gently nuzzled her offspring, making soft, rumbling sounds that matched the cub's earlier contentment purrs. Her eyes flicked to Emma, an assessment that lasted 3 heartbeats, before she apparently decided that any being her cub trusted enough to climb into the lap of was acceptable. Emma stood up slowly, backing away with the same careful deliberation she'd used approaching. She kept her posture neutral, non-threatening, and spoke in a low, soothing tone that the audio pickups now caught clearly. There you go, buddy. Found your mom. Bet you feel better now, huh? Yeah, you were just scared and trying to act tough. I get it. We all do that sometimes. The cub followed its mother into the tree line, pausing once to look back at Emma before disappearing into the forest. Emma dusted moss off her pants, checked her camera equipment, and started walking back toward the station like she'd just finished photographing flowers, instead of casually dismantling the entire galactic xenobiology community's understanding of one of the most dangerous species in known space. 15 minutes later, Emma walked into the security center to find every member of the research team staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to something approaching religious awe. Hey, she said, pulling out her camera and scrolling through images. Did anyone else hear those calls? I got some amazing audio recordings. The mother's vocalization patterns were fascinating, way more complex than the juveniles. How did you know to do that? Kael'thas blurted out. The aggressive display mimicry, the non-threatening approach, the facilitation of the family reunion. None of that is in any human behavioral database for extreme threat encounters. Emma looked up from her camera, genuinely confused. Do what? You mean with the baby apex? Predator? That baby has killed trained combat specialists, Vex Thule said, his voice strained. Okay, but... Emma frowned. He was just scared. His mom wasn't around. He was displaying because he didn't know what else to do, and he was hoping looking big and mean would make the scary situation go away. Classic juvenile fear aggression. Fear aggression, Xilax repeated slowly. His hologram had remained active, watching Emma with the intensity of someone watching their entire life's work crumble. You're suggesting that what we've documented as pure predatory instinct is actually defensive fear response? Well, yeah. Emma shrugged. I mean, look at the context. A baby, separated from its parent in an unfamiliar area. Of course it was scared. The growling, the posturing, that's not, I'm going to eat you behavior. That's, please don't eat me, I'm scary, see how scary I am. Behavior. And you determined this how? Kyle Thas asked, pulling out his datapad to record every word. Body language. Emma said it like it was the most obvious thing in the universe. The ear position, the weight distribution, the spine extension pattern, it all screamed fear display, not predator assessment. When I growled back, I wasn't challenging him. I was speaking his language, basically saying, hey, I'm not a threat, but I'm not prey either. So let's both calm down. You learned xenobiology behavior analysis at your Earth institution? Xilax pressed. What? No, I'm a photographer. I worked at an animal shelter in college, and I've fostered probably 20 dogs over the years. You just learn to read body language. Doesn't matter if it's a chihuahua or apparently a giant alien murder cat. Babies are babies. They get scared, they act tough, and they really just want their mom. The security center had gone completely silent. You're telling me, Vex Thule said carefully, that you treated the galaxy's most dangerous predator species using behavioral techniques you learned from Earth-domesticated animals? I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds weird. Emma laughed. But, yeah, basically. The principles are pretty universal, right? Approach calmly, don't make sudden moves, speak in soothing tones, respect their space, let them come to you. Works with cats, dogs, horses, nervous birds, apparently works with alien apex predators too. Kyle Thas was typing frantically. The human capacity for cross-species empathy and behavioral pattern recognition, the evolutionary advantage of domestication, creating intuitive understanding of non-human psychology. The application of juvenile care instincts across species boundaries. Are you saying, Xilax interrupted, that humans can just do this, naturally, without training or specialized equipment or decades of research? Emma scratched her head, looking embarrassed. I don't want to oversimplify your work or anything, but kind of. I mean, we've been living with other species for thousands of years. Dogs, cats, horses, cows, chickens, parrots. We're really good at the whole figuring out what animals are thinking thing because we've had to be. It's not special, it's just human. It's revolutionary. Kael'thas breathed. Every xenobiology research station in the galaxy approaches wildlife as external subjects to be studied from a distance. We use remote sensors, predictive algorithms, threat assessment matrices. We've never considered simply reading them, empathizing with them. Probably because your species didn't spend 10,000 years selectively breeding wolves into something that fits in a purse, Emma said dryly. That whole process teaches you a lot about animal behavior, whether you want to learn it or not. Zilax's hologram flickered as he adjusted something off-screen. Commander Vex Thule, I'm scheduling an emergency session of the Galactic Xenobiology Council. This changes everything. Our entire approach to wildlife research has been fundamentally flawed. What, because I scratched a scared baby behind the ears? Emma looked genuinely baffled. Because you intuited in 30 seconds what we failed to understand in 30 years of research, Kailthas said quietly. We saw obligate predators with aggressive communication patterns. You saw a frightened child looking for its mother. Both things can be true, Emma pointed out. They are predators. They do have aggressive capabilities. But they're also individuals with emotions and family bonds and, yeah, the capacity to be scared sometimes. Understanding that doesn't make them less dangerous. It just makes them less mysterious. Or a hill, who had been silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke up. Sir, I'm reading the report from this incident. How exactly do I classify it? The human technically violated safety protocols by leaving the protected perimeter. But she also resolved a wildlife encounter that should have ended in fatality without any intervention from security. Classify it as a complete reformation of our interaction protocols, Vexthul decided, and send a request to Earth's Wildlife Consultation Services. If one human photographer can do this, I want to know what their professional animal experts are capable of. Oh, you'd love my friend Sarah, Emma said brightly. She works at a big cat sanctuary. Lions, tigers, panthers. She's amazing with them. I bet she'd find your apex predators fascinating. Kailthas felt something like existential vertigo. Your planet has multiple humans who specialize in approaching and understanding dangerous predators? Well, yeah. Wildlife photography, zookeeping, conservation work, exotic veterinary medicine. There's a whole industry around it. We really like animals. You domesticated wolves, Zilax said slowly. You turned apex predators into companions, and you've apparently applied those same principles to every other species you've encountered. Pretty much. Emma was scrolling through her camera again. Oh, wow. I got an amazing shot of the mother's face when she saw her cub. The relief in her eyes. Hang on. Do Kylar apex predators have expressive eye movements? I'm pretty sure I caught an emotional response. They're not supposed to, Kailthas said faintly. We documented them as having minimal facial communication. Huh? Well, this photo says otherwise. Want to see? She held out the camera. The image showed the mother predator's face in perfect focus, and even through alien physiology, the emotion was unmistakable. Pure, maternal relief. We've been blind, Zilax said, and his voice carried the weight of a collapsing paradigm. Studying them as biological machines instead of as people. They're not people, Emma corrected gently. They're apex predators. But they're also parents and children and individuals with their own experiences and feelings. You don't have to choose between scientific observation and empathetic understanding. The best approach is probably both. That's going to be the new research framework, Kailthas decided. Empirical observation combined with empathetic interpretation, with human consultants on every wildlife team. Speaking of which, Emma said, checking her chronometer, I'm supposed to photograph the sunset migration of those bird analogs from the western cliffs. Anyone know if the cafeteria is still serving lunch? I skipped breakfast, and nearly getting eaten really works up an appetite. She headed for the door, pausing to wave at the security team. Thanks for not shooting the baby predator, by the way. Would have felt terrible if he'd gotten hurt because of me. After she left, the security center remained silent for a long moment. Sir, Hill finally said. The human just revolutionized galactic xenobiology, and now she wants lunch. I noticed, Bexthal replied. Kyle Thas was still staring at Emma's photograph on his datapad. That image of maternal relief that shouldn't exist according to every published paper on the species. Fleet Admiral Dirax is going to ask for a full report on this incident. What am I supposed to tell him? Bexthal wondered. That we activated a planetary emergency beacon because a human photographer taught us that the galaxy's most dangerous predators are capable of love? That's exactly what you tell him, Zilak said firmly. And then you recommend that every research station, every wildlife preserve, every xenobiology laboratory in the galaxy immediately hire human consultants. If one photographer can overturn our fundamental assumptions about predator behavior, imagine what their species can teach us about the rest of the universe's wildlife. They think of predators as friends they haven't met yet, Kael'thas said wonderingly. That's not caution. That's not even bravery. That's just how they see the world. It's insane, Arhil muttered. It's brilliant, Kael'thas corrected. We've spent centuries trying to understand other species from the outside, building barriers and protocols and safety distances. Humans spent millennia inviting other species into their homes. Both approaches have value. But there's... He gestured at the security feed showing Emma chatting with cafeteria staff, completely unconcerned with her paradigm-shattering morning. Theirs might actually help us understand what we're looking at, instead of just documenting it. The next morning, Emma returned to the Eastern Habitat Zone with her camera equipment, a packed lunch, and a complete lack of concern about the xenobiology revolution she'd accidentally triggered. Kyle Thas accompanied her, carrying every sensor and recording device the research station possessed. So, Emma said conversationally as they walked, I'm hoping to get footage of the parent pair hunting. The family dynamics are really interesting. I noticed yesterday that the father has a distinctive gait pattern that suggests an old injury to his rear left leg. Probably changes how they coordinate hunts. You observed a distinctive gait pattern? Kyle Thas asked, already recording notes. In the 30 seconds you saw the family yesterday? Well, yeah. It's pretty obvious once you look for it. The compensation pattern affects his turning radius, which means the mother probably takes point on their right side approaches while he covers the left. I want to see if I'm right. They found a secure observation point on a rocky outcropping. Within an hour, the predator family emerged from the forest to hunt, and Emma's predictions proved precisely accurate. How do you do that? Kyle Thas whispered, watching her photograph the hunt with obvious delight. How do you see what we miss? Practice, I guess, and caring about them as individuals rather than specimens. She lowered her camera, smiling. That baby from yesterday? I've decided to call him Mischief. Seemed like a troublemaker. You named him. Why not? He's got personality. Did you see how he kept trying to look tough even after he sat down? Total bluff artist. Adorable. Kyle Thas made another note. Humans anthropomorphize subjects while maintaining objective observation capabilities. Paradoxical cognitive framework allows simultaneous emotional connection and scientific accuracy. You know I can hear you recording that, right? Emma laughed. For the research, Kael'thas said defensively. Sure. She grinned and went back to her photography. Hey, want to help me set up camera traps tomorrow? I want to get footage of their denning behavior. No one's successfully filmed that before, right? Because it's incredibly dangerous to approach their dens. Or because everyone's been too scared to try asking permission first. Emma winked. I bet if we leave some gifts, fresh prey maybe, and show we respect their territory, they'll tolerate cameras. Animals appreciate good neighbors. Kael'thas thought about arguing, about citing safety protocols and research guidelines, and the entire history of cautious xenobiology practices. Instead, he pulled out his datapad and started planning the camera trap setup. After all, the human photographer had been right about everything else. Why stop trusting her now?